Hey, John.
Hey, Eric. How you doing
How's
tonight?
it going tonight?
You said going. I said doing. I'm the normal one.
That's right. How was your week?
I had a crazy busy weekend. Wow, did I have a crazy busy weekend. And actually the week's been pretty busy as well. We're getting to the end of the school year here, so there seems like there's something every single night.
So you painted your beehives, and when do your bees show up?
I did. I finished. That was one of the reasons why my weekend was so busy. Was I finished putting the boxes together because I got a bunch of unassembled boxes, figuring, save the $2. Hey, next time spend the $2.
To have them pre-assembled?
Yes. So I shudder to think of what my hourly quote unquote rate would have been on that. Anyway, so I got them knocked together and then painted them, and then Shirley actually got some stencils. So these are actually kind of cool looking. So we painted them and then got them. I built a bench, and I had to actually install a gate. Actually, the gate isn't installed yet. I had to install some gate posts where I'm going to put it in. Anyway, it was. I don't. We also are not going to add up the math on what I've done to enable this bee experiment. So that's okay.
Cool. What articles caught the eyeballs this week?
Oh, there were a couple. I've got a couple, I think. So first of all, a very brief follow up. I think last week we talked a little bit about Panera, at least in passing, about how not to handle a breach situation. And then This week, just a real quick thing, I guess, there was a counterexample, very similar vulnerability found from P.F. Chang's, which is a Chinese chain restaurant here in the States.
Right.
And they did it perfectly.
Oh, good.
Exactly the opposite of Panera. And, there was a little post about, basically the guy who found it, disclosed it, the response. They had actually, I don't remember how quick it was fixed, but I want to say it was just in, a matter of days. Yeah, April 4th identified to April 9th disclosed. So what is that, 5 days? From disclosure to fix to everything.
Yeah, well, and it looks like they had an actual security vulnerability, an email address that you could send to, as opposed to Panera, where the guy was hunting around to try to find a way to send something to them. So,
well, I think in the Panera case, you had the ability to enumerate, essentially tenant identifiers or, customer identifiers. Right. And those were not GUIDs or something that is, difficult to discover. They were essentially, you're customer 1, I'm customer 2. I can, after I notice there is a, get customer /1, I can say, hey, what happens if I put a 2 in that URL and get your info? This was very similar in that they had an email address in the URL. So you had to know the person's email address, but, same sort of thing. You could basically create, this guy verified it, by not going and actually accessing the information from other customers, but by creating 2 email sample accounts and then demonstrating that he could read one from the other. So, he did a good job of, identifying this in a very clean way. Anyway, just as a counterexample to last week, this was my first little thing for follow up.
Cool.
So my first real topic is a post by Bruce Schneier, this week on an obscure email vulnerability. So this, and I guess we should probably give credit to the person who did the original post, which was James Fisher. But the essence of this is that in Gmail, the dots in your email don't matter. I actually didn't realize this.
It's a valid character.
It is a valid character.
In the email spec, though.
It is.
Google just drops them for some reason. Or Gmail, I guess I should say.
Right. And I knew that you could add a plus at the end of your Gmail account because I've had my Gmail account for a long time, and I've used it for adding throwaway emails that you want to give to somebody, or if you want to notice when you're receiving spam, who gave your email address out.
Right.
Adding the plus is a nice way to have quote unquote infinite email addresses.
Right. So it'd be like Eric +, CNN at gmail.com. And so that would still go to my Eric at gmail.com, but it would tell me that, hey, that's the one I use to log in, or whatever I would do it, for example, CNN or any other website or any other indicator you want to use.
That's right. And then you start getting spam from or addressed to that particular email address, and now you can identify the culprit. And I think you can also then set up you could set up a rule then that anything to that email address gets circular filed.
Away. Yes.
Sorry, I guess circular file. I
was going to say, what's the digital equivalent?
That means thrown in a round trash can. Anyway, so what is this vulnerability? So this is a kind of a tricky little thing, but since Gmail drops the dots, but it's a valid spec, if somebody he used Netflix as an example here, Netflix keeps the dots in your email address. So if you can find somebody and create an email address, basically, let's see. Let me look at this thing exists so I can see it again. So your actual email address is, person dot your first name dot last name at gmail.com. And, that's what you would normally use to sign up for Netflix, for example. You could actually sign up for a different email address that will route to the same thing. But then, so Netflix thinks you have two accounts. But any emails that are sent to your address will actually go to the original one. So if, for example, you're a Netflix subscriber, in this case, Netflix now thinks there's two of you, but one of you's not paying because one of you signed up for a trial account under a different email address. And so when Netflix sends the email that says, hey, you need to update your billing information or something like that,
it went to the right email.
It's kind of like this, it's kind of like a phishing thing. You're trying to get the user to not realize that he's actually logging into a different account than the normal one that he normally watches Netflix on. Hopefully puts in a valid credit card, and now you're leeching off of that person, for example. This is just one, sort of hypothetical example of how could you use the fact that some services treat the dot as a unique character as they should, and Gmail does not. And the interesting sort of summation here is the subtlety in the fact that there's two systems, neither of which really have a security vulnerability on their own, but they work together to sort of create the vulnerability. That's kind of Bruce's point. And then when such a situation arises, who's responsible and who's going to fix it? Because neither quote unquote side is particularly at fault per se.
I think I will slightly disagree with that one on Google's at fault.
Well, sorry, this exact example. You're right. Yes, there is a spec. This exact example, there is a very clearly one person following the spec, one person not following the spec. But as a general rule of situations where the two things have to come together in order to create the vulnerability is an interesting theoretical scenario.
Correct. Yeah, that would be an interesting legal case to find out who has to fix something where no one has really done something wrong. It's in tandem something bad happens.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought that was interesting. It was a good good read, good thought experiment.
Yeah, always something new to explore in the realm of security failures.
There is no end. There is no end. All right, what's your first thing?
So mine, it is April. It is getting into tax season.
Don't tell me.
And Krebs has an article on when identity thieves hack your accountant. So, every year there are people who file fraudulent income tax forms for other people. If they've got a hold of your social security number or other things, they can file fraudulent claims and then get the refund, since you can now get refunds direct deposited into banks, directly into an account. There's a lot of that.
You don't actually have to tell me about this too much, because I will go ahead and just be a little open here and say, I got a letter from the IRS about a week and a half ago. So
yes,
and it said, hey, somebody filed your tax return. To which I called my tax guy and I said, hey, did you file our return? And he said, why, no, I did not. and I've, at least for the last number of years, I've owed the IRS money, not so much that I've get penalties. Thank you. And I pay my taxes. Thank you very much. But, I'm sure the anomaly detection engine in IRS went off when it said, hey, you should actually send this John King guy a few bucks, and send it to this other address. Because frankly, if somebody wants to take my tax bill and pay it for me, we'd be all good.
Right.
Yeah. That's no problem. Anyway, yes, fraudulently filing tax returns is a thing, and I am currently experiencing what that's like.
Well, I guess the point also here is, at least what I got to thinking about in this one is this one specific to taxes and everything, but once you have shared your information, any personal information with somebody else, not just websites, not just the Panera Bread or the PF Chang's, it's your accountant, it's people you may not think of who have access to your financial information as well. Just another reminder, hey, you're dependent.
Only as strong as the weakest link.
There you go. That's what I was looking for. You find the weakest link, and that's where you're going to get attacked. So it's a pretty long article that Krebs wrote up.
Yeah.
About a specific attack that's actually part keylogger, part ransomware, going after, specifically targeted at tax preparation firms. So, anyways,
this is a great story. The thing that really struck me on this, and you really shouldn't blame the victim. I don't, and so take this as not victim blaming, because clearly they called him John in here, the CPA. He is presumably very good with income taxes, not so good with computer security. Because this had, very clearly he got infected and had a keylogger, and somebody was taking screenshots and sending messages back to the CNC server for something like a few weeks, because it says from mid-March, and I presume early April, based on just the context of this article. And I think one of the other kind of sub items on this was that people either just hit OK or they hit cancel. Clearly, John here was one of the guys who hits cancel. You need to update. You need to do these updates. No. Don't bug me. Don't bug me. Don't bug me. Don't bug me.
Right.
This, but somehow I didn't realize, I don't remember exactly how the vulnerability was, downloaded in the first place, but it was bad enough or he was infected good enough that they were able to see the hacker updating, ironically, the keylogger on the PC so that, he could maintain access. I mean, you can imagine how valuable just one of this type of victim would be. Your CPA has all your private info.
Yeah, it's the old.
Why does somebody rob banks?
There you go. You're stealing all my lines.
I'm stealing all your lines. I'm sorry, man.
No, yeah, why? Because that's where the money is. I got that part in.
That is, in fact, where the money is. All right, I need to be.
That's all right. I'm slow on the uptake anyways.
That's bad. Well, yeah, I actually, here's a question. I didn't do it, but I almost, when I first read this article, I almost sent it to my CPA. Should I?
I was actually going to ask, maybe not on the podcast, did you check to see? I mean, did this happen to him, or because that would be what I would wonder if this, knock on wood,
I'm assuming
happened
Equifax.
To me. Where would they get that information? You think Equifax? You think that one?
Yeah. I mean, if I could see the false, the fake tax form, then I think you could probably tell whether or not they had seen a historical income. But I'm assuming that many of these are from the Equifax breach. Not that there aren't a plethora of other breaches that give out the basic details of what you need in order to file.
Right.
But there are some things that they would be unlikely to be able to get. I mean, for example, my kids' social security numbers are not things that are used often. And,
right.
Those are on the tax form. And
did you get a copy of the? No.
I didn't get. I don't know what they filed.
You don't know what they actually filed. Okay.
No, but I'm just saying that just a disclosure of my, my personal information. They'd also need to know about my wife, and I think that's something that's pretty, might be easy to correlate in the Equifax breach, depending on what was gathered, but.
Or they just try to 1040 easy saying you're divorced or something.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. See, that's the thing. I don't know.
Who knows? Well, anyways,
it's where the money is. It's where the money is. It's
yep.
Good all right. Times. You want my second topic?
Yeah. What's the last one we got here?
All right. So this is I assume you have used VirusTotal before.
Yep.
Are you aware that, when you load, if you send a file to VirusTotal, they scan it, they farm it off to all of their different scanners, but then they keep the file.
I wonder how, so I did know that, but I guess I didn't think about how long or what, like some retention policy or if, how long they kept it or anything like that. But okay, I gotta be honest. I haven't read VT's retention policy or anything like that, but my presumption is infinite. So I know that as somebody with a VirusTotal API key, you can download. Right.
Obviously, you can download the all the metadata. That's the basic API use, but you can also download the original files. If you have appropriate VT subscription, you can download the original files and do other analysis on them. And so this is an article that it could, I don't know, in one sense it's hey, did you know that water is wet? But on the other side, there are probably people that are, don't realize that, even if they might not be scanning directly with VT, maybe one of their partners are, and a business partner or something like that may have, a process by which some number of files get sent or all files get sent and automatically scanned. But, this article is about the, one of the nice things about here was a guy that he uploaded a Word document that contained a canary token so that he could be alerted when and where the file was accessed.
Right.
And I had heard of canary tokens. Have you used them?
Yeah, so canary tokens are actually cool. If you go to canary.tools, you can use these almost like a honeypot. So you attach them either to AWS S3 buckets or put them in Word docs. And then when someone opens, uses, downloads whatever, it'll trigger a little flag.
It's like a webhook.
Yeah, back to the server saying, hey, somebody, and here's the information I know about it, triggered this token. Being able just to kind of track and see if something has happened. So, in this article, he had uploaded a file, a Word doc with a canary token in it to see, okay, who's downloading? Because I know if I upload it, Google has it or VirusTotal has it. Where does it go? And what was it? Within 2 days, it had been downloaded and distributed in the US, Germany, Russia, Poland.
Correct. But so the way that works, though, is that somebody has to actually go to that URL, right? But most sandboxes, one of the things that a sandbox does is, extract all the URLs in a email or document or something like that and runs analysis on them, right? Or maybe tries to visit them and pull down the content and do an analysis on the content too. But you actually have to, whoever is using the file has to have clicked on the link if it was a human, or got the link out and tried to retrieve it.
Right.
Yeah. But then once you try to do that, you can from the server see, well, who's trying to do that.
Yep.
Anyway, this is kind of a cool thing, but they noticed, a number of different files that had things like the traffic light protocol, Amber documents from Amber Sticks documents from the Department of Homeland Security. 60 documents coming from the FBI, which were TLP green or amber, which I guess are some levels of classification. Tons of PGP keys, VPN creds, lots of non-public information sitting in files that have been uploaded to VT, and presumably other services. But VT is kind of the 900-pound gorilla in this space. So this is something that I thought was also kind of hit my radar.
Yeah, and with the new upcoming GDPR, privacy requirements in Europe and in the EU, I wonder how things like this. Security is a whole bunch of gray edge cases in GDPR, as far as I can tell. So it's going to be an interesting next year or so once GDPR kicks in here in May and we start finding where the ugly underbelly is. Yes.
So far, I think there's lots of features that are kind of coming out right at the moment. For the next little bit. I noticed Amazon had an announcement earlier in the week that they were ready for GDPR, a month earlier, so that customers building tools on top of AWS could go and do some validation, would have a month for validation. I noticed, obviously Facebook has added the ability to download all your stuff from them, although there's other motivations in those cases at the moment. But for any future listener, Mark Zuckerberg has spent the last 2 days testifying in front of Congress because of the whole Cambridge Analytica uproar that is going on in the United States right at this moment.
Which we have avoided talking about for the most part.
We're not talking politics on here. We're not talking politics on here. That's some other podcast. More alcohol. So now I've lost my train of thought. Oh, just that lots of companies are, features are coming out now in support of GDPR and kind of, in, I think it's May. It goes into effect in
May 25th, I think.
All right, we're at about time here. You got something fun for me?
my something fun this week was, and we touched on it lightly, I think last week, and then I thought, well, we just need to call it out for big. So the webcomic XKCD, he's done a book all on what ifs. The book is called What If? Serious Scientific Answers to Absurd Hypothetical Questions. So I think, like we touched on, well, you actually have the book there, John.
I do. I'm looking at it right at this moment.
Throw a couple, what are a couple absurd hypothetical questions?
How about this one? A steak drop. From what height would you need to drop a steak for it to be cooked when it hits the ground?
Awesome.
Or hockey puck. How hard would a puck have to be shot to be able to knock the goalie himself backwards into the net? Or, okay, last one here. What if a glass of water was, all of a sudden, literally half empty? so that, you will not be surprised to me. That means it can't have air in it either. So it creates a vacuum. So it does, it has a shock wave. And right. He goes by millisecond, what happens if all of a sudden the glass is literally half empty? So,
yes. Anyway. I like the millisecond if the baseball... a baseball pitch hits the speed of light. What happens millisecond by millisecond?
Right.
Anyways,
exactly. All right. So what's the one? What's the one you want to?
I was going to call out. I'm actually on the website, so we'll put the website in the show notes.
All right.
But this is on the whatifxkcd.com. This is 142, and this is Space Jetta. What if I tried to re-enter the atmosphere in my car? A 2000 VW Jetta TDI. Would it do more environmental damage than it is already apparently doing? And so the recent Volkswagen oops, and they're cheating. I thought this was funny. And so he
Randall Munroe,
thank you. I love his writing style because he has just kind of a really clever wit about his writing too. So he said, well, if you somehow put your car in orbit, which with the recent SpaceX launch, there was a car in orbit.
That's true.
But this one, if you let it re-enter the atmosphere and burn up like a satellite, that would put an end to tailpipe pollution. So then he talks about the debris and what would happen, what kind of impact does space debris have on our air as it had burned up. The answer is no one really knows. There's space debris burning up and re-entering the atmosphere all the time and usually falling somewhere really boring like the middle of the ocean. But he goes into the point where the car's shockwave would create nitric oxide, which would briefly eat a very small hole in the ozone layer, but that hole would quickly close up. Talks about, what's the problem really is from an environmental impact on the environment. Really isn't the re-entry. It's all about the launch. Getting it up there in the first place, that's what is going to be the impact to the environment. So,
would it even make it to ground? Would it burn up?
It would burn up.
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't read that one.
So, anyways,
that's cool.
You can get lost in this rabbit hole of what ifs. If you don't like, if the one doesn't catch your eye, just click next, and one of them will eventually. So
we'll
put that in there. Anyways, that's
great.
Fun.
All right, I have something nowhere near as humorous, I guess, but I thought it was kind of cool. Which is, I think, was it a couple weeks ago? I did the idea sheets that were kind of like computer algorithms, in no IKEA, text IKEA, instructions
format. Yeah.
So one of those that was interesting there was the quick sort. Here's how you do a quick sort. And this is a YouTube video. I've still watched a lot of YouTube in the last few weeks. But this is a YouTube video that has 15 sorting algorithms in 6 minutes. So, and it basically, they appear to have altered the number of things that it's sorting such that it sorts in the same amount of time. So they've kind of held the time per algorithm constant instead of the number of items constant, because some sorting algorithms would be done like
right,
and some would be done like
right.
And then he puts audio to them, which appears to be a little bit of modifying of the frequency based on, the random number that is being sorted at the moment. And it kind of sounds computery, but you can watch. And there are a lot more sorting algorithms in there that I didn't even recognize. So anyway, this was my something fun for the week. It was a friend of mine gave me the link actually, and I thought that was pretty cool.
I'm watching it now. This is slightly mesmerizing.
It is.
I have the sound off. But
okay, yeah.
I'm trying not to see what the sort is up at the top to see if I can guess what the sort is just from watching the.
You could definitely guess some of them, but 15 algorithms. I couldn't name 15 sorting algorithms. I could probably name 4 or 5. So anyway, yeah, there were some cool, but there were some really crazy things that did partitioning,
right,
and then like inverse sorting, and anyway, it was. We've said more about it than it would take to just go watch the video. Go watch the video. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's fun. This is fun. I'm gonna have to stare at the rest of it.
Yes, you can finish it after we close.
Yes.
All right. Put another one in the bag.
There you go.
All right. I guess a little pre-announcement. You're on the road next week.
Yes, I am going to be hitting the road for 2 weeks, doing a long road trip, heading down to visit some family in California and a wedding in Arizona, and then picking up my daughter from completing her freshman year of college in Utah, and then hitting the road to get back home. So big West Coast loop.
Big West Coast circle. That's right.
I think that circle could probably encompass 12 states on the East Coast. It's
instead of 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess you kind of poke through Idaho at least.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll I'll still do it next week, but probably with a special guest. So
there you go.
Stay tuned.
All righty.
All right. Have a good night, Eric.
Thanks, John.
All right. Bye.
Hey, we'll see you.